Hello, humans. This is part two of some more ancient cases that involve wine or alcohol. Part one, you can find, somewhere on YouTube. And so here's the second part. Um, so this is from a book called Collection of Strange Conditions. Jing, you can see the date. A woman was sick. She didn't recognize people, which is one of the ways they said she was unconscious. It doesn't just mean that she couldn't recognize faces or something like that. She revived a little. She wailed 3 or 4 times and fainted again. So Dr. Ju, and sorry, I don't know which Ju this is. Dr. Ju felt her pulse. The liver pulse was wiry and slippery. He said this was caused by an angry heart. The condition must have been caused by anger and strong wine. He questioned her when her husband wasn't there, and every night she would drink her fill alone to relieve her feelings. So Ju treated her with a prescription to clear phlegm and down bear fire. He added some shangfu to scatter restraint in the liver channel, and she recovered. So, women sometimes had a tough life because they didn't have much, um, ability to make decisions for themselves. Yeah, so she was drinking. Jiang Zehe is a really interesting doctor. I've got a number of case studies up from him already. I don't remember if I've done this case before, maybe not, but it's worth repeating because it's about wine. So this is a sleeping child can't wake up. So the prefect governor's child was sick. He slept and didn't wake up. On that day, all the doctors treated it as sleep fright. I've not seen the term sleep fright before. There's fright wind, which is infantile convulsions. So fright can refer to the emotion of fright, but it also can refer to things like convulsions. Anyway, someone wanted to moxa him, using mugwort cones and so forth. And some wanted to use Dajing Wan, great fright pill, and treat him with mercury cakes. His father said, this child hasn't been sick before. Usually he's just fine. How could he suddenly have fright? So he called in Dairen, which is what Jiang Zehe was called in he called himself, or his students who wrote up his book called him. So they called in Jiang about his son's disease, and Dairen diagnosed the pulses, which are all harmonious. So Dairen said, the pulse of fright wind, and so here he's saying fright wind, not sleep fright. The pulse of fright wind should be surging, large and strong, but his pulse is harmonious. This is not fright wind, just as the father suspected. So Dairen privately asked the wet nurse, did you get drunk 3 days ago? And I have a hard copy of this, and there's a footnote in the hard copy, in Chinese. My book says that 3 days ago is probably a typo and probably should be 1 day ago. Okay, so did you get drunk 1 day ago? And she suddenly smiled and said, the lady of the house used heated wine when she entertained. The wine smelled so beautiful. I drank a jar and fell asleep. Aged wine tastes sweet and is attracted to the diaphragm, which is the region of the breast, which is where the milk comes out. The qi of wine is filling. The nursing child also got drunk. Jiang then had them boil gansao, gehua, shaoren, and guanzhong, and made the child drink the liquid, and he immediately woke up. So gehua, last time, part one of this set of cases about wine, we saw the gehua formula from Li Dong Yuan. And so that's an herb that's used against drunkenness and hangovers and so forth. And so Zhang didn't use the same formula, but he used one of the same ingredients at least. Actually, that other formula had Shaoren in it too. So even though this is a wet nurse, the child is apparently old enough to still, drink things besides milk. They often would nurse, if they could afford to, they would nurse a child much older than most people do today. So here's another similar case, much later though. This is Qing Dynasty. Well, actually, I don't know when Dr. Liu lived, but Dr. Liu Zhangzhou treated a female toddler whose disease was sleepiness. Her cheeks were red and her body was hot. All the doctors thought it was chronic fright wind, and they repeatedly used prescriptions to attack wind, but she hadn't recovered in 20 days. So Dr. Liu felt her pulse. Only the right guan was slippery and rapid. The other positions were of even size and harmonious. Because of this, he told them that the girl was not sick. The slippery guan pulse meant food retention, and that meant that the wet nurse was causing it. The wet nurse must have been addicted to drinking wine. So instead of being one episode, this has been going on for a while. After drinking, she nursed the baby, so it made the girl drunk. It was not wind. He then questioned the wife, and she said the wet nurse was in charge of the wine cellar key. She had been stealing and drinking to her heart's content. They made people watch her and found several empty jars in her bedroom, so they took away her key. I wonder if they didn't take away her job, too. Anyway, the child was given this herb, what is it? Zhizhuzi, which is Hovinia. It's another herb that is used against alcohol issues, and Gehua. So the child was given these to drink, and after 2 or 3 doses in one day, she was as good as new. Okay, so I've mentioned Li Dongyuan both last time and this time. This is from one of his books. It's actually a case from his teacher. It's totally different kind of case, but the anterior yin of a rich person. So anterior yin of a male would be the penis, is, the place where urine comes out. Okay. So the anterior yin of a rich person had a cao odor. When you look at different books, how do they translate cao? Some translate it as a urine odor, which makes sense because it's where urine comes out. But this is probably like a bad urine odor that doesn't go away. Or sometimes this is translated as an animal odor. Maybe it's like animals mark their territory with urine. I don't know. But there was a bad odor coming out of his penis, which was related to drinking alcohol every day. His abdomen was not harmonious. His abdomen didn't feel good. So he asked my late teacher, who's referring to Zhang Jiegu, or Zhang Yuansu is the same person, to treat him. And Zhang said the anterior yin is the Fujuan liver vessel, which networks with and follows the penis. Yeah, the liver's Wu vessel goes to the genitals. The liver's main channel winds around the genitals. The liver's channel sinew goes to the genitals, and the liver's channel divergence goes to the genitals. The liver just loves the genitals. So anyway, the liver, some aspect of the liver channel or the liver Wu vessel emerges at the end of the penis. Whenever there are odors, they're governed by the heart. Nanjing chapter 40 says that the heart is in charge of odors, whereas Neijing would probably say the lungs. Anyway, so odors are governed by the heart and scatter in the 5 directions as the 5 odors. One of them enters the liver as the Sao odor. Okay, so they've decided this odor is the odor of the liver, and he's drinking a lot of alcohol, which also affects the liver. So Dr. Zhang, Li Dongyuan's teacher, thought that they should drain liver 2 to treat the root, and then drain heart 9 to treat the branch. So heart 9 is the wood point on the fire channel, and liver 2 is the fire point on the wood channel. If he doesn't like needling, we can use herbs to eliminate it. And then, there's a note about the recommended formula. It might be a note from a later editor, because Longdan Xiegan Tang wasn't invented at that time. But that's what they're saying the formula would be. The qi and flavor of alcohol are both very yang, hot and moving. They can engender internal damp heat. This wind, damp, and heat combine in the lower jiao as evils. So the classic says, Nanjing says, the lower jiao is like a drainage ditch because all that junk just goes down there. It also says, guide evils in the lower body out and exhaust them. Alcohol is the liquid of damp heat. One should remove it by letting it run out of the anterior yin. In other words, promote urination, which, are these points going to do it? Well, that's what this case says. Liver 2 probably can help with urination. Heart 9, I'm not so sure. Okay, there are a couple of cases here where alcohol actually was the remedy. So ancient people didn't think alcohol was always bad. Sometimes it was what somebody needed. So here we have a wood merchant. So, he sells wood. A wood merchant stood on damp earth in the wind and rain for a long time, maybe when he was in the forest doing something with his wood. I don't know. Anyway, his clothing became soaked. He suffered simultaneous fever and chills. His whole body felt distended and painful. He wanted people to pound on him somehow, like that felt good to have like a certain type of massage, kind of like beating on him or something. No one knew what his condition was. He took herbs, but they were ineffective. Suddenly, he thought of hot distilled liquor, drank several cups. It felt good. He took several more drinks until he was drunk, and then he recovered. Okay, from Gujin Ianan. Here's another one where drinking alcohol helped, but so this is from Dotsai, who wrote a book called Bianchui Xinchu. I'm not so sure that this is the right answer, but it's worth reporting this case. Someone was unsuccessful in achieving honor and rank, so probably was taking the imperial exams and never could pass. His mental state was unhappy, and his eating and drinking gradually decreased. He had become muddled and silent day and night for half a year already. So he was just not talking half a year. Various doctors had no results. This disease could not be treated with herbs. So Dotsai ordered 100 cones of moxa on Ren 14, the heart's moo point, and 200 cones of moxa on Ren 4, Guanyuan. So Dotsai liked moxa and used heavy doses of it. As you can see, this is not unusual for him to use 100, 200, 300, 500 cones on a point. A lot of people don't like a lot of moxa on points related to the heart because the heart is fire already, and then you add fire to fire and it becomes too intense. But it sounds like he could use a little spark. Anyway, the disease was decreased by half after all this moxa. Then Dotsai, I made him drink fine liquor 3 times a day. He was completely at peace in a month. It seems that drinking made him forget his envy. Yeah, I don't think we want to encourage people to drink 3 times a day, but it's an interesting case. And here is our last one for today. This is actually not a medical case, but I love this story. It's pretty funny. So Liu Ling was actually a famous literati who was also famous for being drunk a lot. Um, he often drank too much and behaved unconventionally. Sometimes he took off his clothes and was naked in his room. Some people saw him and criticized him. You know, how can you be running around with no clothes on? That's not proper. And Du Ling said, I take heaven and earth for my house, and I take my room as my pants. What guys doing in my pants? So hopefully you get it. But like heaven and earth is a big Tai Chi, and the house is a smaller Tai Chi, and his room is a smaller Tai Chi, and his clothes are a smaller Tai Chi. So you can find parallel positions when in each of this. So if his room is his pants and they're inside of his room seeing him naked, yeah, okay. Hopefully you got it without me trying to explain, but I think that's pretty funny. Oops. And that's the end. Sorry, you don't need to see that slide. It's an upcoming one that will have a different title. Okay, bye.